Hi, and welcome to the Golden Age Report. So let's start off talking about Iran. So first we had the UK declaring that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is a terrorist group. Then we had the EU coming out with this new sanctions on Iran. Of course, all of this wasn't working, so now we had a series of explosive events hit Iran in the past 48 hours. At the Azerbaijani embassy in Iran, the head of the security service was shot. Iran is hopeful that this won't affect relations between the two countries. This is actually my first thought, that this was done to break up the alliance. Then we had this drone attack on Iran's military-industrial complex. This comes a bit after Zelensky had called for NATO to attack the Iranian drone facilities. This is one of 3 attacks last night on Iran. We also had an oil refinery catch on fire. Some sources are saying that Israeli jets were seen flying over Iran. We have the Israeli Air Force strikes on the border of Syria and Iraq. Also the attack on the Revolutionary Guard headquarters, Mahabad. Several different sources reported an attack on a convoy of pro-Iranian militia vehicles in the city of Bakhmut on the Iraq-Syrian border. Prior to one of the attacks, the U.S. spy plane was said to be operating in the area. So this is quite a bit of attacks in such a short period from all different directions. Many on social media were saying that this is the start of World War III. The Iranian Ministry of Defense stated that there was no serious damage to the military-industrial facility that was struck by the 3 drones. They said they shot down 2 of the drones. So on another front, Iranian Navy ships docked in Brazil. This was despite U.S. concerns over it. One of the Navy's ships is equipped with anti-ship cruise missiles, torpedoes, and naval guns. Some speculate the U.S. is worried about them heading over to the Panama Canal. We certainly think we will start to see blockades and even ships being sunk at some point pretty soon. Didn't really think that Iran's Navy would be that aggressive though. They went down to Australia a few weeks back to flex their muscles. Doesn't seem like their Navy is that strong, but they are ahead of Australia on the world rankings. We have even seen some stuff floating around on social media that there was another round of attacks on Iran tonight, but I haven't seen anything from reliable sources at this point. The Iranian Ministry of Defense is urging caution amid a multitude of unconfirmed reports and disinformation circulating on the internet. Certainly have concerns that the Western powers are trying to cause panic throughout Iran. So they caused quite a bit of unrest over the protesting. So according to the Sun newspaper, the British Ministry of Defense fears that Challenger tanks will fall into the hands of the Russian military on the battlefield. So on another front, we had this weird update to the global power rankings that was really puzzling to us as we've been following the happenings regarding the various militaries since the war broke out. Somehow other countries entering the arms race early, while the UK was giving massive arms to Ukraine, resulted in the UK climbing up 3 ranks in the 2023 global power rankings. There are quite a few changes in the ranks. Also seem to indicate that these numbers have been politicized. Perhaps someone made a few phone calls to get these numbers adjusted. I do see many references to these numbers from mainstream sources, so I can certainly see someone wanting to adjust these numbers for various purposes. Well, we put them back behind France where they belong. Perhaps they should be even lower, but they are a nuclear power, so we will leave them there for now. Meanwhile, one of the biggest stories circulating in the mainstream right now is the decline of the UK military. So, out in the US, Donald Trump has been active lately. He assured Americans this week that if he were president, he would be able to negotiate an end to this intense war between Russia and Ukraine within 24 hours. I don't doubt it either. This is why the neocons needed him out of there, because they had an agenda that they needed to meet, and he was in the way. So ex-president Dmitry Medvedev caught wind of this Trump statement and said, yes, indeed, if Trump was president, this deal would get struck and the war would end. Unfortunately, we're stuck with these warmongers for the next couple of years here who are sure to lead us to World War III. On another front, we're seeing signs from the neocons that they've kind of stepped back from their dream of taking over Crimea to, sounds like they're just going to be happy to hold on to what they have and try to just weaken Russia. So it sounds like that's their new strategy moving forward. So let's catch up on the battlefield in Ukraine. A bit of a fog of war out in Volodar, so we won't spend too much time on it. We are hearing that there's a HIMARS been brought into the area that's helping out the Ukrainian side. But we're hearing conflicting stories about what's going on in the area. We've heard anywhere from their street fighting in Volodar to Russia's been completely had to step back. So we'll have to wait until things clear up to report on that. On the southern front, the biggest news is coming from Kherson, where we are hearing that there's been massive shelling. Some reports say that the Russians shelled the city 100 times in the last 24 hours, but we're actually seeing a lot more footage of bombings. It looks like Russia has control of the skies in the area. There's not many people saying it, but we think here on this channel that Russia is going to push through Kherson and try to get to Odessa. Another interesting area is this Krasny-Liman direction in the southern LPR front. This is that area that we've talked about before. When the Poles first came down into the area, they were a bit shell-shocked and didn't understand why their commanders were sending them into this area. We believe it is an absolute fortress. So in the last 24 hours, the Russian Ministry of Defense is reporting 110 Ukrainian servicemen were lost in the EPR front. Heavy losses too, especially to equipment. So they're reporting 90 Ukrainian soldiers were lost and 2 armored combat vehicles, 14 motor vehicles, and then 6 artillery systems and 4 rocket launchers. And actually you can add 4 more artillery systems and 1 counter battery radar just in the Donetsk area. Probably the biggest news of the day is this Bakhmut to the west of Soledar. Russia managed to take it over completely. It's not a very big area, but it's on the opposite side of the railroad and the river, and it gives Russia a bridgehead on that side of battlefield. This also puts pressure on Krasnohora and Pereskovika. So ultimately this just works towards the complete encircling of Bakhmut, which we're hearing that Western sources are saying that Ukraine is about to retreat from Bakhmut. We don't think this will happen though, as the trend has been for Zelensky to wait till it's too late to retreat and basically lose most of his troops. So it seemed like Ukraine was way more active today than we've seen in any recent time with HIMARS systems. So perhaps they have received some new systems or more missiles for the system. But certainly we haven't seen this many strikes. The most significant one is this one north of Melitopol, which struck a railway bridge, the Melakani River. Sounds like that bridge was already damaged and was being in the process of being repaired, and was just a setback. So we promised we were going to do a new version of the military rankings. This is our first stab at it, and we've done Russia here. This is going to include air power, manpower, ground forces, naval power, and we've added missiles and air defense and drones rankings. Now that the drones, we're just going to have tiers. We won't have an actual number of where they're ranked in the global power rankings, as much of this information is top secret. Everything is ultimately just an estimate anyways.